Welcome to Unlocking Your Power with Francesca. This podcast is designed to help you build a bulletproof mindset and embrace the badass you are. I will be the external voice to remind you during those tough days and give you that kick in the butt that you need. Let's get it going. Well, welcome back to Unlocking Your Power with Francesca, aka your host. So we are back for part 2 for the gaslighting series. And if you have not listened to the first part, please do, as we're going to start concentrating on the solutions and a little bit of my story. Now, if you haven't listened to it, I recommend that you do, as it will kind of decipher and kind of give you an idea if you are being gaslighted or not, because there are subtle signs that will kind of guide you through of if you're experiencing gaslighting, or you're just dealing with a narcissist that has some sort of gaslighting tendencies, or if you're dealing with a person that is passive aggressive. They're all interlocked with each other. So I rather have you guys listen to the first part before you go to the second part. Now, if you've listened, thumbs up. Good job, guys. Thank you for listening. And let's kind of get a little overview reminder of what the definition of gaslighting. Okay, so gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation and an extreme form of invalidation. So we're going to learn how we can deal with a gaslighter, steps to take your power back, and also, of course, provide my full experience on how I dealt with it. Now, my experience, I'm going to dive right in. My experience was a little bit extreme, okay, but it was an extreme, drastic measure I needed to take at the end, but I did do steps to kind of help me recognize and kind of keep my family bond there. But I needed to do drastic measures, which I'm going to explain to you what happened. Now, I have many stories because, again, I've come from years, okay, literally 29 years of gaslighting. So one of the major, most recent one I want to kind of highlight were the 8 years of, honestly, so confusing, but a psychological abuse from a member of the family, which is my stepmother. Now, like I said in the very beginning, this is not to bring a person down. This is not to attack a person. And what I say from my experience is actually what actually happened and facts, because I actually went through my healing and spoke to many people as well as a therapist in regards to the situation. So what I'm saying is not based on actual emotional response, is actually what happened. So, I'm not going to go into freaking detail, which I wish. If I did, it was going to be a whole long story, which I don't want to get into. If you want to know, then let me know. But I'm just going to summarize it, okay? So I came from a situation where my actually blood mother was a gaslighter with narcissistic tendencies. She wasn't a full-blown narcissist, but she did have these narcissistic tendencies. And then I enter into another environment where I had a stepmother that basically was a gaslighter and also has narcissistic tendencies. So I just went from one situation to another. So let me remind you here. There is so much context. And summarizing a complex system, especially within the family network, is difficult. But let me summarize this. So my father and I technically didn't have a relationship. We didn't have a bond from the very first place. I unfortunately kind of mention it as a person that I didn't know, like a stranger. And, of course, I've hung out with him and whatever, but it wasn't one of those close bonds that I ever had with a father. So what happened here is I actually moved down to Florida probably like 9 years ago for a fresh start and kind of reconnect with my father, because he moved down here. He was in a relationship with his now wife, and she has 3 kids. And it was a split family dynamic. So at first, she was very nice and very welcoming and very kind and very thoughtful. But for some reason, okay, I felt some sort of vibe or feeling from her from the beginning. And it's one of those feelings that for me, I'm an empath. So I'm very highly aware, and I have a spiritual high sense alert of things. So for me, I sense things very quickly. But I give people benefit of a doubt. I give people time to prove themselves. And, I don't go with the first thought because sometimes I can be wrong. So, from the very beginning, I felt very off. But for the sake of having a relationship with my father or developing one, I did my very best to kind of merge in this family dynamic. Now, I did notice that she was a lot sensitive. She is a very sensitive person, which is fine because I'm very sensitive. But I noticed that she did need a lot of validation from my father, like verbal validation, physical validation, emotional validation, and she relied heavily on my father. So over the course of time, within the first 6 months, she began parenting me. We didn't have any established relationship, so she didn't have that right to step over where my father should have stepped up, which he didn't. So what happened was she started to send me these text messages to everything in regards to how she felt instead of telling me in person. Like, she didn't want to tell me in person. Like, she didn't have, I don't want to say the fucking balls, but she didn't have the ability to speak up, and it was always via text. So I noticed that there was some sort of jealousy. And every time I try to talk to my father, or even for God's sake have a few minutes of his time, she would somehow have some sort of attitude, some sort of comment or issue. As I started noticing what exactly the kind of person I was dealing with, I literally didn't want to be there. I swear to God, I worked long hours for the purpose of staying out. So I didn't have to deal with these weird mixed signals of her where I was trying she's saying something, she's showing something, but then she's showing something different. So I was getting so freaking confused. And I noticed that over the course of time, me being there was a problem. Me being out of there was also a problem. It was a huge argument. I'm a literal young adult with the ability to, of course, respect the household and provide vocalization of what's happening, what's going on, where I'm going, whatever. But it became a huge argument. So I was the topic all the time for no freaking reason. So I was accused of wanting attention, accused for crying out for attention, where at the end of all of it, a huge argument went into her leaving the freaking house, she giving an ultimatum to my dad. Then my dad said, sorry, but I'm going to go with her. The lights are going to be out in the next 2 weeks. Try to figure that out and find out where to go. My dad left me there. So, at that time, okay, that's a whole different story, all right? Trust me, I've healed through it. So at that time, I was mentally distraught, okay? Now, I felt isolated. I felt alone. And in those times, not only in that beginning, but also multiple times, I did explain to my father, hey, this is how I feel. This is what she makes me feel. This is what she says. I got all the text messages. I have recollection of memory of what she told me. And my dad just stated, well, it's between you and her. I'm going to stay out of it. My father was never involved. He didn't step up for his own daughter, his own blood daughter. He was never vocal. He didn't know how to do that. Okay, based on his troubles and his traumas and his issues. That's not my problem. But I've noticed that, I was the adult person of the family. So she continued on these long text messages of how she basically felt of certain things, made certain passive aggressive comments that were intentional to tear me down. She didn't apologize. Rather, she told me that what I was saying, what I was thinking was wrong, didn't happen, confused, get over it. It was a long time ago. So, it was just this woman, this is how my brain was kind of comprehending all of this. And this is why those who are being gaslighted are left fucking confused. I looked at this woman because I look at people with the best intention of the heart. I looked at this woman and I'm like, this woman has great qualities. She's a great woman. But she also experienced trauma, which I'm not going to say, but she cares. But then she has passive aggressive comments to bring attention back to her, to diffuse attention on me. When I got excited or said something that was happening that was great for me, they were like, oh, good for you. Literally, good for you. Great job. Not excited for me because I can tell. I literally came to the point where I needed to talk to 10 fucking people. Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go talk to a therapist about this because I know I'm not fucking crazy, but I'm going crazy and I feel like I'm going crazy. So I told them about the situation and they told me this woman has trauma. She's basically jealous of you and she can't self-loathe herself. And, you know, she wants to grab the full attention and it's all freaking trauma related. You know, it's all psychological abuse of, you know, history and stuff. So it comes to the current situation. So the hardest thing about it was my dad didn't even step up. He didn't set boundaries. He didn't say, this is my daughter, you're my wife, or you're my girlfriend. Respect this. Nothing, none of that happened. There's got to be boundaries within the actual family dynamic, especially when it's a split household. Okay, there's got to be a lot of communication to be able to overcome multiple personalities, multiple life experience. You know, the list goes on. So she was always the one reaching out to me when it comes to parenting. My own freaking dad didn't even parent me. So this is what happened. All right. This is what happened. Besides me trying to talk to people, trying to understand, do more research on myself, I was like, literally, I felt like I was the one that was wrong. Like I always felt like I was doing something wrong. And I was like, I cannot do anything right. If I do something right, there's a problem. If I do something wrong, there's a problem. So I was just like, there's got to be something, okay? Like, give the dog a bone at this point. So what I needed to do was I did move out, you know, when it came to a lot of this. I did move out, and there was a certain point in the past 3 years where I literally went through a heavy healing journey, and I still am because it's a journey. You never stop. But it was so dark for 8 months straight where I set boundaries. I stepped away. I start focusing on myself and my traumas, my healing. I removed myself from the family. I removed myself from contact. This was painful and hard because truth was started to arise. I started realizing truths. Okay. So because as a woman, myself, and as a daughter, I want a bond. I want a family. Okay. A family bond. I didn't have it. My mental health at this point was more of a priority. My life goals and success needed to be protected. I needed to protect myself. If you couldn't speak up, then I'm going to speak up. So I went through a long healing journey, mending, forgiving in my heart, because you have to forgive those who have done you wrong. Because if you don't forgive for those who have done you wrong, you're not going to move past it. So forgiving requires, this is going to spirituality, and this is what I'm going to continue highlighting. Spirituality is very big for me. I'm a very spiritual person, so I needed to really pray. Pray so freaking hard to the point where I'm begging what to do. What I did was block everybody. I blocked every single person, my mom, my stepmother, my brother, my dad, other immediate family members, because I couldn't tolerate the toxicity and me always being the person that I'm being trashed, abused. Yet, it's funny because it's not me. It's them. So that is the point, or that is where I am now. I needed to take a drastic measure to protect my heart, my mind, my aspiration, my goals, my track. Everything that I've done was with my own damn hands. I didn't ask for help. I don't ask for help. So what I did was realize that I need to cut ties, and that was crazy. That was hard. That was difficult. I cried for months because I realized that they died and they're still living. It's like death in a family, but they're alive. Isn't that crazy? So, and this is something I'm going to highlight in a next episode, of course, like in another episode, a conversation about family and cutting ties. And because I know that I'm not the only one that is experiencing this, and this is freaking hard. This is not easy. But I was being gaslighted to the extreme, and I got over it, got done, and I needed to remove them. Now, let's talk about the steps that you can take. Okay, it doesn't have to be that drastic. Sometimes you do. But I'm going to talk over a few things with you guys so you can realize that you are able to overcome the situation if you're dealing with a family member, a person you love, a boss. It can be so many things. Gaslighting can be done so many ways and so many things. Again, this is general, but I'm going to start highlighting what you can do to take your power back and be able to overcome this hard, toxic cycle. So we're going to start diving into 4 steps in dealing with a gaslighter, and also a few reminders on how to take your power back. So let's get into it. So the first step is identity, identifying that issue. So what's happening? You know, there are so many ways of a person can gaslight you, and I'm going to mention quite a few, so it's kind of reminding of what usually are said and done, but a lot of it is trying to identify those words or those actions that basically is not in alignment of a positive person. So you're going to see or hear criticism gaslighting, which would be like, a person will say, you will never get anyone better than me, or you're terrible with money. And this can happen a lot in romantic relationships where a man or woman can start putting you down and criticizing you, what you cannot achieve. You're going to hear probably denial gaslighting, where a person cannot take accountability and they're going to start denying things. So they can be like, well, I never did that. You're so confused. You're wrong. Invalidating gaslighting, you're going to hear someone saying, well, you're the issue, not me. You're just too insecure. You're being too overly sensitive. So it's just basically invalidating your worth, who you are, or what you're thinking, and basically minimizing it. You're going to hear projecting gaslighting. How that is that there might be projecting some sort of insecurity of themselves. So they're going to be like, oh, you're too pathetic. How can you do that? You're just so ugly. You're incapable. You're dumb. You're not smart. So, you know, a lot of it is you're not smart enough. You're not going to achieve this. You're going crazy. That will never happen to you. So basically influencing that downgrading and projecting all at once. Now, a lot of this, what you're going to start seeing is you're going to see the fusion between passive aggressive comments or actions mixed with gaslighting, mixed with narcissism. So there's a lot that is happening, so that you're going to have to identify that these things are actually happening or things that are being said. In my own opinion, what it's going to feel like you're being bullied. This is actually a form of bullying. And that is something that I have recognized within the years, that this is honestly a form of bullying. You're being bullied. So once you identify that issue, you're basically extracting the information or the factual facts of what's happening, of what you see and what you're hearing. So what you're going to need to do now is go to the second step, which is, how does this make you feel? So it's taking ownership of how you feel. So because of extracting this information, or I call it extracting data, that it's being done, you're going to have to take a few moments to yourself and see how it makes you feel. You're going to have to sit with the feeling for just a moment. The question I'm going to ask you is, how does it make you feel? What kind of energy do you sense when you are around this individual, when they say or do things to you? Do you feel positive? Is it a positive interchange of energy, communication? Do you feel great after you leave with them, after you have a conversation with them, after hanging out with them? Or do you feel negative? Do you feel negative energy that you feel like regardless of what you say or do, you're just left with a really icky feeling, like something has a hold on you, or that you feel like you lost yourself in some degree or unhappy? There's your answer. Go with what it makes you feel. You have to pay attention to that. So with surrounding yourself with this type of environment, it's not going to make you feel good. You're not going to be happy. Then you're going to start using that energy to concentrate on figuring the hell of what's going on. You're going to start pulling the attention to that specific issue or what the issue you have. You're going to start feeling crazy. You're going to start worrying more. You're going to start feeling like you're making the wrong decisions. You're going to start focusing on your flaws that they apparently pointed out. And I'm going to give you an example. Like, for example, let's say someone told you, you're just being selfish. You're not educated. You're not smart enough. What you're going to need to now focus on is you're going to start worrying about, damn, am I selfish? Am I really that sensitive? Am I that dumb? Like, damn, I got to start reading books. I got to get a tougher skin. That's what it's going to happen. Now you're going to have to drift all this energy on figuring out what's wrong with you, where there's not usually a lot wrong with you. You know, we all have imperfections, of course, but you know, this flaw that they're pointing out, now you're concentrating on it. Now you're utilizing all your brain power and energy on trying to figure things out. You're going to be confused. Then you're going to be confused of the damn relationship itself with the person, because now you're looking at them and you're looking at them of how you thought they were. And then you're looking also at them of how they're showing up. There's never progress. There's always disagreements, same conversation, same war. You're always apologizing. This whole cycle that I've basically explained in the first episode of the series, you're not going to feel good. And I'm going to tell you this. Are you tired of feeling this way? Look, guys, I'm going to be very direct with you here. And this is very important that you listen, because this is reality. You're not supposed to live a life where you're always confused, unhappy, and feeling like a damn cloud is over your shoulder. How far are you willing to fully compromise your own sanity, mental peace, and life just to have a relationship with this person? So, what do you need to do? You're going to need to set clear boundaries now. So once you identify the issue of actually extracting everything that you're seeing and hearing and feeling, once you took ownership of how you feel of the situation, of how it's making you feel, and once you're done, tired of feeling this way, you're going to have to set clear boundaries. And this is how it's going to look like, okay? But let me just start with something very critical I want you guys to think through. People who actually love you and care for you would never speak to you in such a way that they're going to make you confused, bring you down, tear you down. I'm not saying that this person is evil, all right? There's no such thing. I'm not saying that they're evil, that they're doomed. That is not what I'm saying. They don't even know what they're doing most of the time. They don't even know how to act most of the time. Okay, sometimes they can come with malicious intent. Sometimes they're not coming with malicious intent. You don't know. God knows what's within the hearts and minds of people, but that's not your damn responsibility to look for it. Okay? This is something that you probably heard often. Hurt people hurt people. Unhappy people make other unhappy people around them. So most often, the people that hurt you are not aware, but it is not your damn freaking responsibility or job, guys, to be that person to really help them and heal them. You can point it out to them so that they can reflect on what they're doing. That's the only thing you need to do. But it is not your job to heal them, to help them, to motivate them. You can, okay, in a certain degree, but not to the point that it's consuming you. You get it? So a lot of this is a reflection of their mental health. It is based on their traumas, well, how they were parented. And this is something I'm going to leave off before I get into boundary setting. This question is, who was that man or that woman before they conceived you or gave birth to you when it comes to family? Or in a relationship, who is that man or woman that you are dating or in a relationship with that has gone through or what they have gone through? Who is this person? Okay, so who they are has no tie to you. Okay, so your parents, you have to look at them, or family, parents or family, you have to look at them as individuals, not like they're blood tied. Okay, that's where people start getting everything mixed in and confused with how to approach their life, is that you have to analyze them in such a degree that they're like another person on the street. Who was this man or woman that gave birth to you? Then that's where you start realizing that they're individuals that have to do their healing and their own damn work. So don't let any person guilt trip you when you start taking responsibility and accountability of yourself by setting boundaries, because they have to be the person to do it themselves. And we're all adults here, guys. All right, we're all adults. So setting boundaries is the first thing, is setting it up. You can do this by being vocal. Okay, you can start the initiation, being respectful and being honest and upfront with them, knowing that in some way they're probably not going to listen. But what you're going to need to do is give them the chance to have them understand that you're approaching them in an adult way. You see, you're adulting. You're taking steps. You're setting boundaries. And a lot of this can be like, well, I feel like I'm not being heard and I don't have a chance to voice my opinion, and I feel like I'm being undermined when I bring things up. So what I am going to do is step away, take some time to myself, and I'll come back to you. All right. That is all you can say. That's just one example of setting boundaries. So by saying, hey, I'm going to take time away, work on some things, do not take this personal. That is how you're setting boundaries. But you have to come at an individual in such a way is out of a place of love and care. Okay. You will also need to enforce them. You need to sometimes remind the individuals that, hey, like, I understand that you might not like this and you're kind of stepping over the boundary that I set. I want to respectfully tell you, like, can you please respect my boundaries? This is where it gets a little difficult, and this is where it's going to be tested, okay? When they don't respect the boundaries that you're setting, they're going to throw a tantrum. They're going to start attacking. The reason why they're doing this is because they feel that they no longer have any control of you. So what they're doing is freaking the hell out. Do not let this deter you guys. They're going to come with all freaking weapons to make you feel like shit. They're going to make you feel very, what's the word? You're going to feel like you're selfish. They're going to tell you that you're selfish. Just keep doing you. Don't let it deter you. They're just freaking out because they no longer have control. So once you start setting boundaries, they're not going to like it. Sometimes boundaries can also be set by silencing or distancing yourself. You don't have to say shit. Especially in the case where you've kept saying the same thing over and over and over and over. What you're going to do? Be like, you know what? I'm stepping away. Silence and distance has its own meaning. You know, it's another form of boundaries. And this is not to disrespect anyone, but this is to respect yourself, protect your energy and your peace of mind. This is what I'm going to ask you here about silence and distancing. Do you want to get worked up again? No, I hope not. Do you want to go back to that shitty feeling again? I hope not. So hold your ground. It is not your responsibility to answer to every freaking comment. It might hurt with the things they say, because again, they're going to come with all weapons. That is not your issue. That is not your issue. It is theirs. So once this starts happening, the next phase would probably be losing people. Do not be afraid to lose people. It is a very scary thought, guys. I know. Trust me, I get it. You are most often allowing things to happen because you don't want to lose the relationship with the individual. You may come to a point where you're going to start adapting to their perception that you're the problem too. You don't want to cut them off because you probably feel like you can no longer depend on them or rely on them. You're going to probably question, I don't think I can make it on my own. Am I going to be loved again? Am I going to find another person that makes me feel this way? You're going to be fine. And I'm saying that to not disregard your feeling or what your situation is. I'm saying that is because I lived through it. I know how it feels to not want to cut people out. And this is a form of extreme measure. Okay? It is scary. I've been on my own since I was 18. Everything I did was with my own hands. Of course I wanted support. Of course I wanted family. Of course I want a partner. But if it's going to tear me down, I'm not going to hold on to it. So what I'm saying is that if I can do it, and I'm okay, it's a lot of processing, yeah, I'm okay. You can do it too. You're going to be fine. And I'm going to explain to you why you're going to be fine in a few seconds, okay? You got to protect yourself at all cost. No matter how strong your mindset is, no matter how strong of a person you are, that cycle that you're going to stay in is going to tear you down one way or another. Let me remind you something. Your brain is made of plasticity. So what that means is it changes all the time. Remember I said about any sort of repetition of things is going to stick to your subconscious part of your brain. It's going to stick to the back of your brain no matter what. Your sensory is going to be loaded with what's happening. Things change when you change. Your brain changes when you change. So even if you're strong, what they're saying, what they're doing is going to be there in your brain subconsciously. It's going to be like a hard file in your subconscious part. You're going to have to remove it. So after all of this, I'm going to tell you why you're going to be okay. It's the portion of how to build yourself back. Okay. So you're probably in a place where you feel overwhelmed, deserted, unhappy, a little confused, a mix of emotions. But let me tell you something here. Things are going to get better. Okay. So how do you get yourself back or take your power back is having a support system. You need to kind of build a network of individuals that are more of a positive force in your life than a negative one. So you're going to have to replace the negative with a positive. Okay. So that does require a little bit of work of you. and a little bit of trying to be proactive for yourself and creating those connections. So when it comes to support systems, I've used Facebook a lot. It's interesting what social media technology has done in the past decade, where there's so many connections you can make and there's so many support groups. Type in gaslighting and trust me, I'm on quite a few support groups on Facebook, and there's a lot for everything. Connect with people who are experiencing this. Connect with them, talk to them. Rely on a great friend as well. They can be in your support system, and that great friend can be even a family member. A therapist. Go to a therapist. And that's what helped me. Therapists are there to give you an unbiased perspective and rework certain things that has happened. They kind of shift perspective on the facts, on the actuality, so that emotion can be removed and actually see it and process it. So your therapist can be a great support system that you need just for a moment of time to get you back up. Building yourself is also critical, okay? You have to put actions to be able to find your voice. And how you find your voice is, like I said, extracting information, writing things down, listen to podcasts, read books, pray, whatever spirituality journey you're in, if you're spiritual or religious or whatever it is, there is a higher power. Rely on that higher power. Rely on God and being able to help you handle and get through the hard time. Having that faith and surrounding yourself with positive information to build you up. That is the only way you can do it. Remove the toxic voice with a positive voice. And then, of course, do what makes you happy. You got to connect with yourself by doing things that makes you happy. Travel, go out to different places, drive, do things differently with taking up a skill, a new instrument, play your instrument, start a book, start a business. Focus on yourself, invest on yourself, which is going to make you happy because you're working towards something that will bring you more of a great positive impact. So when you start surrounding yourself with supportive people, building yourself with positive affirmation or information, and also taking action and doing things that are going to make you happy, you're going to be okay. Because in that process, what's going to happen is that you're going to start expanding to other networks, and you're going to get in contact with people that are a lot more supportive than the person that you were dealing with. And then you're going to be okay. You're going to see the power behind that pain that you've been through. So guys, I hope this has helped you in some capacity to start thinking about what you can do or start focusing on things that can help you kind of take that power back, because this is not an easy process. And I hope you guys take all this information with a grain of salt. And of course, this is not to attack anybody. It's just being more aware of your life and your actions. But before I wrap this up, you can of course follow me in Instagram and TikTok, which is Cheka_rebuilt. My website is www.francescaroldan.com. And also, if you have any questions for me, please email me at unlockingyourpower@gmail.com. Again, guys, thank you for listening. If you guys like this episode, please give me a thumbs up, like, comment. It looks like you can comment in Apple Podcasts, not in Spotify. So if you can actually leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be amazing, and rate the show, as what that would do is the algorithm will start showing this podcast to other people that are also needing this information. And of course, I love you guys. See you again next week. And remember, you're a freaking badass. Chin up and heads up, love. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Unlocking Your Power with Francesca podcast. Please make sure you are subscribed so that you never miss an episode. And if you feel this message was great, please go ahead and share it with your friends and family so they can get a dose of inspiration. Don't forget to leave a review and rate the show. Love ya. Bye.